He left me bleeding at the bottom of the stairs, chasing after a lie in red lipstick. 3 days later, I signed the divorce papers in silence, sent them to his office, and boarded a flight he'd never trace. He thought I disappeared out of heartbreak, but I left out of clarity. When I was younger, I used to think betrayal would feel like a thunderclap. Loud, undeniable, impossible to ignore. Turns out it's quieter than that. Just laughter. Male voices. A woman's teasing giggle. I stood outside the frosted glass door of the executive lounge at the Grandview Hotel, Derek's leather briefcase tucked under my arm, and listened as my name got passed around like a joke. "How many days before Elena comes crawling back?" a man snorted. Derek's voice answered, slow and smug. "Days? Try minutes." Laughter erupted. The kind of laughter that stings worse than any slap. "She's completely helpless. No job. No family. Can't make rent on her own. One phone call and she'll come running back like a loyal little puppy." My hand clenched tightly around the strap of the briefcase. "God," another voice said, "that's cold." Derek chuckled. "It's not cold if it's true. He was never meant to be permanent. I married her because my parents adored her. That's all." A different voice, probably Harvey, added, "Especially now that Vanessa's back." There was a moment of silence. Then Derek spoke again, his tone strangely soft. "Yeah. Vanessa's the one. Always has been." I pressed my back against the wall beside the lounge entrance, the edges of the world warping and curving around me. I couldn't breathe. My lungs refused to fill. Vanessa. Of course. She had been nothing but a footnote in Derek's life. At least that's how he always described her when I asked. "We were kids," he said once with a gentle laugh. "Just a passing thing. You don't need to worry about someone from 10 years ago." I had believed him. How many lies had I swallowed just to protect my illusion of love? Inside the lounge, the conversation kept going, casual and cruel. "She's not worthy of Derek," a voice sneered. "Even if she begged, he wouldn't take her back." "She won't beg," someone else joked. "She'll kneel." Derek laughed. "She's never lived a single day without my credit card, my name, or my roof. If I wanted, I could have her back in under 3 minutes." More laughter. Ice in my veins. "She's pathetic," someone added. "Just another woman who mistook comfort for love." And then, like poison, Vanessa's voice entered the room. I recognized it immediately. Low, velvety, dripping with false modesty. "Don't be so cruel to Elena," she said. "It's not her fault she fell for Derek. She just loves too much." A beat of silence. "But," she continued with a smile in her voice, "it's a shame. Derek loves me." The words struck like a whip. I didn't hear anything else. The laughter, the clinking of glasses, the murmurs, it all blurred into a dull roar. I couldn't move. I had come here with good intentions. Derek had forgotten his briefcase and I thought I'd surprise him by dropping it off. Maybe he'd smile, thank me. Maybe we'd go home together and have dinner like normal couples did. Instead, I stood in a hallway, forgotten and discarded, hearing my husband gamble my dignity over whiskey and laughter. He had never loved me. He'd performed love. A grand, well-practiced illusion. I didn't know how long I stood there. At some point my hands began to tremble. My nails dug into the leather handle of the briefcase so hard I left crescent-shaped indentations. But I didn't cry. Not yet. Not there. With deliberate steps I turned around and walked back to the elevator. The briefcase thudded quietly as I dropped it at the reception desk downstairs. "Please give this to Mr. Derek Collins," I said to the woman behind the counter, my voice surprisingly calm. She smiled, unaware. "Of course, ma'am." As I stepped outside, the hotel lobby's soft golden lights gave way to the darkness of the evening. The city was alive around me, horns blaring, neon signs flickering, couples laughing as they passed by. I stood at the curb for a moment, unsure where to go. I didn't want to go home. Not to the house I now realized was never mine. Not to the bed where he had whispered empty apologies. Not to the dining table where we'd toasted fake anniversaries. I took out my phone, hovered over my cousin Myra's number, then put it away again. I wasn't ready to explain. Not yet. Instead, I checked into a hotel 2 blocks away. Paid in cash. Didn't give my real name. Once inside the room, I turned off all the lights and collapsed onto the bed fully clothed. And then I cried. Silently. Violently. The kind of crying that doesn't have sound, Just pain that pours out of your skin and bones. The kind you feel in your stomach. Eventually the tears stopped. My body gave out and I slept. But before I drifted off, I made myself a quiet promise. I will leave. And I will never ever look back. I hadn't gone home since the night I overheard them. The briefcase. The laughter. The bets on my pain. It all played on repeat in my head like a cruel lullaby. But I had to return eventually. Not for Derek. Not for closure. I needed to retrieve what little I still had. Some documents, a few items from my studio, my grandmother's jewelry, the last box of memories I hadn't had the strength to move earlier. I told myself that's all this was. I just needed to grab what was mine and leave. That's it. The apartment had a new passcode. Of course it did. I had tried it twice, each time more absurdly hoping I remembered it wrong. But it wasn't my memory that had failed. It was Derek's final message. You're not welcome anymore. So I texted him. I need to collect the rest of my belongings. Please let me in. There was no reply. I called. Straight to voicemail. So I did the unthinkable. I went to his office. I waited at the coffee shop across the street from his building, heart thumping as I watched the tinted glass doors open and close, faces I didn't recognize streaming in and out. Finally his car pulled up. Same silver coupe. Same driver. He stepped out looking immaculate as always. Navy blazer, no tie, sunglasses, effortless charm. He saw me before I could approach. For a moment he looked confused. Then his lips curved into a smirk. Elena, he said approaching. Came to see me off like old times? I came to get my things, I said. You changed the code. I assumed you wouldn't want to return, he replied coolly. Considering your dramatic exit. I won't stay long. He nodded lazily. Fine. Come by tonight. 7. When I arrived, I was surprised to find he wasn't alone. The living room was full of people, the same colleagues I had seen at the lounge. Harvey sat at the bar, swirling bourbon. Others were on the couch, glasses in hand. Music hummed softly through the sound system. And there she was, Vanessa, wearing one of my robes. Her legs crossed on my favorite armchair, holding my wine glass. Elena, she greeted, lips curling. Didn't expect you tonight. Kept my voice steady. I'm just here for a few things. I'll be gone in 10 minutes. Vanessa's laugh sparkled like champagne, high-pitched and sugar-coated. She rested a perfectly manicured hand on Derek's chest as he leaned closer to her. I mean, she said loudly with a teasing grin, how long is this arrangement supposed to last? Derek raised an eyebrow, confused. Vanessa tilted her head dramatically, her voice taking on a pouty whine. I'm talking about her, Derek. The group chuckled awkwardly. One man coughed into his drink. Vanessa pressed on, eyes narrowing. When are you divorcing her? The laughter around them froze mid-air. Derek's expression faltered. For half a second something crossed his face, a flicker of hesitation as if the thought had never occurred to him in concrete terms. Not really. Not fully. His hand stiffened under Vanessa's touch. His lips parted, searching for a reply he didn't have. My eyes flicked to Derek. As I moved toward the hallway, Vanessa followed. Her voice lowered to a whisper meant only for me. You know, he sleeps better now. Doesn't toss and turn like he used to. I didn't reply. I fixed him, she added. And you? You were just the mistake before I came back. I stopped. Turned slowly. Vanessa, your entire existence in his life has been a mistake. Past, present, and soon-to-be future. Her eyes narrowed. Oh, you're still bitter. That's cute. Before I could respond, Derek's voice rang out. You don't need to make this harder than it is, Elena. Just get your things and go. I looked at him, at the man who once told me I was his piece. You really think I came back to fight for you? I asked. He looked mildly amused. Didn't you? I laughed. Bitter. I came back for my birth certificate and my grandmother's pearls, Derek. I'm not here for leftovers. Something flickered in his eyes. But before he could speak, Vanessa stepped between us. Derek, she said sweetly, don't be so harsh. She's just heartbroken. Divorce can be so emotionally destabilizing. He shrugged. She'll get over it. She always does. Vanessa turned back to me and said louder this time, do you still love him? That drew attention. The room fell quiet. What? I asked. She smiled. Do you still love Derek? Or are you just jealous because he's moved on? Because you lost? I clenched my jaw. I didn't lose. I walked away. I felt my hands tremble. My body tense. She grabbed my wrist. Oh, and I'd appreciate if you didn't confuse him. He's moved on. I'm pregnant now. He needs stability, not drama. I yanked my arm away, sharper than intended. And just like that, she screamed. Let herself fall backward. The room gasped. Vanessa crumpled to the floor, moaning like she had been struck by a bullet. Elena! Harvey shouted, jumping to his feet. What the hell? Someone else barked. She attacked me, Vanessa sobbed. She pushed me. Oh God, it hurts. My mouth dropped open. What are you? Elena, what the FK did you just do? Derek's voice roared behind me. He rushed toward us. I stepped back, stunned, hands open. I didn't touch her. She's pregnant, he shouted. And you pushed her? I didn't. But I didn't get to finish. He shoved me. Hard. I stumbled. Lost my balance. And the stairs were right there. The marble steps that curved downward like a trap. Pain exploded through my ankle, my back, my arms as I tumbled. My body bounced down the steps like I was weightless. When I landed, I couldn't breathe. I saw stars. The ceiling spun. Footsteps thundered down the stairs, but they weren't coming toward me. I looked up, dazed, and saw Derek carrying her. Vanessa lay limp in his arms, her face pale, hand dramatically clutching her belly like a tragic actress mid-soliloquy. Call an ambulance, he shouted. Someone ran for the phone. I blinked, vision blurring, and tried to sit up. A sharp, unbearable pain shot through my lower abdomen. My voice came out as a gasp. Derek. He didn't turn around. Derek, it hurts. My stomach. Still nothing. I reached up, grasping the hem of his pants weakly. Please. I need help. He kicked my hand off without looking back. Vanessa moaned. Will I lose the baby? No, Derek said, his voice softening. I'll take care of everything. You and the baby, you're all that matter now. I watched them leave. My body trembled. Tears slid down my temples and pooled in my ears as I lay on the cold marble floor. I didn't even cry out loud. There was no point. I don't remember the ambulance ride. What I do remember is the white ceiling, the antiseptic smell, the distant beeping of monitors, my name being said like a question. Elena. Elena Moore. I blinked slowly, mouth dry, and nodded. You're in the hospital. You had a bad fall, the nurse said gently. We ran some tests. That's when I saw the look in her eyes. Pity. The kind that coils like a snake around your gut before you even know what's wrong. You were pregnant, she said. You're not anymore. The world fell silent. No sobbing. No screaming. Not even a gasp. Just stillness. I turned my face toward the wall and closed my eyes. For the next 2 days no one came. No Derek. No calls. No questions. I watched the light crawl across the walls as time passed. I refused food. I didn't press the nurse call button. I didn't speak. They gave me pamphlets about grief management. One nurse asked if I wanted to speak to a counselor. I shook my head. On the second night, I woke up from a dream about holding a baby I couldn't see clearly. I thought it was crying, but when I leaned in, it whispered, Mom, he never wanted me. But I did. When I opened my eyes, the pillow was wet with tears I hadn't realized I'd cried. That morning I got up. I pulled the 4 out of my arm myself. The nurse rushed in. Miss Moore, you shouldn't. I want to leave. You've had a miscarriage, she said, clearly trying to be firm. You need supervision, rest. There's no one coming, I replied quietly. I know my body. I'll take care of it. She frowned. You should at least let someone escort you. A family member. Your husband. I laughed, bitter dry. My husband? She looked confused. Aren't you married to Mr. Collins? I didn't answer. Eventually she handed me the discharge papers. I signed them and left through the back exit in a hoodie and hospital slippers. No one stopped me. No one even noticed. That evening I walked into a phone shop and asked them to destroy my SIM card in front of me. The guy raised an eyebrow. You sure? I'm sure. Then, I called only one person, my cousin Mira. The moment she picked up, her voice broke. Elena. I opened my mouth but nothing came out. Elena, are you safe? Where are you? I need to leave, I whispered. I can't stay here. He didn't hesitate. Come to Country M. We'll take care of everything. Just get on a flight. I'll book it for you now. Mira. Yes. Please don't tell anyone. Her voice softened. I won't. Before I leave I had to do one thing. The receptionist didn't recognize me. Good. She looked up, gave a polite smile and gestured toward the waiting area. Someone will be with you in a moment, Ms. Collins, I said flatly. Then corrected myself. Elena Collins. I didn't flinch at the name. Just this once I would use it for the last time. The lawyer's office smelled like lemonwood polish and stale quiet. He was kind, older, with square-framed glasses and a quiet way of speaking. He introduced himself, offered condolences, asked gently if I wanted to proceed. I do, I said. He looked up, surprised by the firmness in my voice. I slid a file across the table. Hospital records. Marriage certificate. My passport. I had brought everything. I'd like to file for divorce from Derek Collins, I said. No contest. No property dispute. No custody fight. We have no children together. The last sentence caught in my throat, not because it wasn't true but because it had once been false for a brief, bleeding moment on a hospital bed. The lawyer hesitated. Are you sure you want to proceed now? I understand this must be. I'm sure. His pen moved. Swift strokes. Page after page. He explained the steps. Filing. Processing. Notification. He asked for Derek's current address. I gave it. When he slid the final document across the desk, I didn't hesitate. I picked up the pen and signed my name. No tremble. No second thoughts. Just ink drying like a final wound closing. The lawyer asked, would you like it hand-delivered? Or served by post? Certified courier, I said. I want a receipt that it was delivered. I don't care if he opens it. He nodded and reached for a gold-embossed envelope. It will go out tonight. I stood and adjusted the scarf around my neck. I'll be flying out of the country tomorrow morning, I added. Please forward any follow-ups to this address. I handed him a sealed envelope, a forwarding service in another country under a different name. He raised an eyebrow but didn't ask. Smart man. As I stepped out of the building and onto the street, the sky was pale and overcast, the kind of sky that couldn't decide whether to rain or shine. But inside me something had settled. Not joy. Not yet. Just stillness. And for the first time in years that was enough. When I landed it was night again. My body ached. My eyes burned from crying on the plane. But I had nothing left inside. Mira couldn't make it to the airport. Her baby was sick and she'd just returned from a night shift at the hospital. But she sent someone else. Look for Luca Hayes, her text said. He has a beard and terrible posture. He'll be holding a sign. I scanned the arrivals area until I saw it. A cardboard sign that said, Elena, the strong one. I blinked. Then I saw the man holding it. Mid-30s. Tousled brown hair. Tired eyes. Hoodie, jeans, and the calm kind of presence that doesn't try to impress you. When our eyes met, he gave me a small, unassuming smile. Elena. I nodded. I'm Luca. Myra's friend. And, he scratched the back of his neck. Terrible with signs, apparently. Despite everything, my lips twitched. He'd leave little sticky notes on the fridge. Don't forget to eat today. I fixed the light bulb in the hallway. Also, apples are on the counter. You can write anything. Especially the happy ending you never got. That last one made me cry quietly into my toast one morning. I don't remember the exact moment I fell in love with him. Maybe it was when I found him sitting cross-legged on the floor, reading a children's picture book to Myra's son with different voices for each character. Or when he showed up at the bookstore with lunch because I'd skipped it for the third day in a row. Or maybe it was when I found him crying quietly while watching a documentary about rescued shelter dogs. But I do remember the moment I let myself say it aloud. We were walking back from the market, arms full of produce. The sun was low. I said his name and he turned, already smiling as if he knew something important was coming. I think I love you, I said. His smile didn't falter. I know, he replied softly. I was just waiting for you to be sure. We married a year later. A quiet ceremony in a garden Mira helped decorate. There were only 12 people in attendance. mostly Myra's friends and a neighbor who made the best lemon cake I'd ever tasted. Luca wore a gray suit and forgot how to breathe when he saw me walk down the aisle. I wore a pale blue dress that flowed like a whisper, the opposite of the grand cold white gown I'd worn for Derek. This time the love was real, and gentle, and safe. Our daughter Mia came not long after. She was born in spring, all warmth and softness and wonder. She had Luca's dark hair and my eyes. Her laugh, though, that was all her own. Motherhood terrified me at first. I thought I'd break her, that I wasn't worthy of something so innocent. But Luca never let me doubt myself. Babies don't need perfect, he whispered one night while holding Mia against his chest. They just need love. He was right. And love poured out of me like water from a cracked dam. For the first time in years I didn't feel like a woman surviving. I felt like someone living. 3 years passed quietly. Luca and I built a simple life. Days filled with work and naps and spilled apple juice. Evenings spent on the porch watching Mia draw chalk suns on the pavement. My old life felt distant. Sometimes I thought of Derek, but not in pain anymore. Just like one thinks of a dream that faded the moment they woke up. I never looked him up. I never wondered what Vanessa was doing. I had written my final chapter with them. Or so I thought. Then one evening Mira brought over a wedding invitation. I almost forgot, she said, tossing the envelope on the counter. You remember Liana? My college roommate? She's getting married in North City. I froze. North City. I told her you live abroad now, but she insisted on sending one anyway, Mira added quickly. You don't have to go. I looked at the envelope. My fingers didn't shake. Actually, I said quietly, maybe we should. Mira blinked. Are you sure? I nodded. Not for revenge. Not for reckoning. But because I could. Because I was no longer the woman who once crawled into silence after being shoved downstairs and abandoned. I was Elena Hayes now. Wife. Mother. Whole. The trip back felt surreal. Flying into the city I once escaped from felt like standing at the edge of a cliff I'd already survived. But Luca was there. Holding my hand. Carrying our daughter. Taken. At the hotel, Mia refused to sleep unless Luca read her 3 bedtime stories in a row. He didn't complain. He kissed her forehead, tucked her in and whispered, "We're here, baby girl. You're safe." The next morning I stepped out onto the balcony and watched the sun rise over North City's skyline. I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel hate. I felt free. The morning of the wedding, North City looked deceptively kind. Sunlight filtered through soft gray clouds, and the air smelled faintly of cinnamon from a nearby cafe. Mia had refused to wear anything but her pink dress with sparkles, and Luca had made peace with having glitter on his jacket collar for the rest of the day. You look like an enchanted hedgehog, I told him as we arrived at the venue. He raised an eyebrow. That's oddly specific. You chose this life, I added with a smirk. He chuckled, then leaned over and kissed my forehead. And I'd choose it again. Every single time. The wedding venue was beautiful. A quiet estate tucked into the edge of the city, with lanterns hanging from sycamore trees and string music floating through the air. We handed over our gift at the reception table and followed the ushers inside. Mia was cranky from missing her nap, so I excused myself from the main room and took her out to the garden path, hoping the fresh air might calm her down. We walked slowly. She clutched her stuffed bunny in one hand and gripped 2 of my fingers with the other. I hummed softly, bouncing her gently as we moved along a quiet stone path lined with hedges. Are you sleepy, baby? I whispered. She mumbled something incoherent, then nestled into my shoulder. I rounded the corner of the guest corridor. And stopped. Because standing at the far end of the hallway talking to someone was a man I hadn't seen in 3 years. His profile was unmistakable. That posture. That jawline. That hair he always pushed back with the same careless flick. Derek Collins. He took my bag without asking and walked beside me in silence to his car. On the ride back I didn't say a word. He didn't ask questions. Halfway through he reached into the glove compartment and pulled out a pack of tissues, dropping them on my lap wordlessly. That's when I realized I'd been crying again. When we pulled into Myra's driveway, she ran out in pajamas and hugged me like she was trying to press all my broken pieces back together. We didn't talk that night. She made me tea, tucked me into her guest room and sat with me until I fell asleep. Luca disappeared after leaving my suitcase by the door. Days passed. I slept. Ate only when Mira forced me to. Ignored my phone. Refused to check the news or social media. The world I had come from felt like a fever dream. Mira was patient. She never pried. She just let me exist. But Luca, he kept showing up. One day I found a fresh cup of coffee outside my door with a sticky note. In case Mira made that peppermint horror again. Oh. Another time I heard him fixing the lock on the garden gate because a weird cat keeps sneaking in and judging everyone. Once I heard him telling Mira through the wall, she doesn't have to talk. Just don't let her feel like she's alone. I didn't know who this man was. Why he cared. Why he showed up with groceries, tea or a stack of books he thought I might like. But I noticed. And it mattered. One afternoon I stepped outside for the first time. I sat on the porch steps in the warm sunlight. Luca walked by, saw me and stopped mid-step like he wasn't sure if he should speak. I looked up and said, "I don't like peppermint tea either." His grin was small. Knew it. We sat in silence for a while. Then I said, "I lost the baby." It was the first time I said it aloud. Luca didn't say sorry. He just nodded. And that somehow made it okay. Weeks turned into months. I began volunteering at a local bookstore. Mira eventually returned to work. I started cooking again. Badly, but it helped. One day, I helped a woman pick out a birthday present for her daughter and didn't cry afterward. Another day I laughed, really laughed, at something Luca said. He looked stunned, then victorious, like he'd just won a quiet battle no one else knew about. It was slow. It wasn't easy. But piece by piece I was finding myself again. One night Mira and I were cleaning up after dinner. She leaned over and said, "Luca's been asking about you." I blinked. What? Well, not really asking. But showing up a little more than usual. Carrying that one book you mentioned. Fixing the stupid garden gate for the 4th time even though no one uses it but you. I laughed softly. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because," she said, handing me a towel, "when you're ready to trust someone again, you should know who already showed up. It's strange how peace doesn't come in one grand moment. It trickles in slowly, through cups of coffee left outside your door, jokes scribbled in the margins of borrowed books, and a quiet man who never once asked you to explain why you flinched at loud noises or avoided mirrors." Luca Hayes never asked me to heal. He just made room for it. At first we didn't talk much. He dropped off groceries for Mira, fixed broken knobs, and always made sure to bring in extra something, like a cinnamon muffin or the exact brand of dark chocolate I thought only existed in North City. He never stayed long. Just enough to say hi. Sometimes not even that. But one afternoon I walked into the kitchen and found him trying to install a child safety latch on a drawer, with a fork. "What are you doing?" I asked. He looked up surprised. "Engineering." Clearly. He grinned and set the fork down. "Mira said you nearly dropped a knife on your foot yesterday. Just making your surroundings slightly less deadly." My lips twitched. "With cutlery?" "It's called improvisation. Or chaos." He tilted his head. "Same thing depending on the day." I laughed. It was small and brief, but real. And Luca noticed. After that, things shifted. I found myself lingering a little longer when he was around. Accepting his offers to walk to the bookstore with me. Sitting beside him on the porch in silence that wasn't awkward anymore. One evening, while Mira was at work and her baby was finally asleep, Luca and I sat on the porch watching a thunderstorm in the distance. He offered me a mug of hot chocolate and said, "You don't have to tell me anything. But if one day you want to talk, I won't interrupt. I'll just listen." I didn't reply. But I held the mug a little tighter that night. I started writing again. Not anything serious. Just short recipes, snippets of thoughts, ideas for children's stories. Words used to scare me. Now they felt like mine again. Luca encouraged everything gently. Never too much, never too little. He laughed at something his companion said. Then he turned. And saw me. The moment stretched impossibly long, like time itself forgot how to move. His glass slipped from his fingers and shattered at his feet. He didn't notice. He stared at me, unmoving, eyes wide and disbelieving. I didn't panic. My heartbeat didn't race. I didn't clutch Mia tighter or flinch or even turn away. I simply looked back. And waited. He took a hesitant step forward. Then another. Then faster, until he was standing directly in front of me. "Elena," he whispered. "You're alive." I nodded once, curt. "Yes." His eyes flicked to Mia in my arms, fast asleep now, cheeks flushed pink against my shoulder. His breath caught. Is she mine? His hand reached out, hovering over my arm, trembling. I stepped back. Just enough. No, I said evenly. She's not. His lips parted but no sound came out. He looked like a man who had just seen a ghost, and wasn't sure if it was a dream or a punishment. But you disappeared. Everyone thought. He paused, eyes searching mine. Where did you go? Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you call? I tilted my head. You didn't check the hospital records, did you? What? I was there. For 3 days. Alone. After you pushed me. I didn't. He began, but I cut him off. You didn't mean to. I know. But you did. My voice was calm. And then you walked away with Vanessa in your arms while I lay there, begging for help. His face crumbled. I didn't know. No one told me. You never asked. He ran a hand through his hair, stepping back like the memory physically struck him. God, Elena. I've looked for you for 3 years. You didn't look in the right places, I said simply. Because you assumed I'd come crawling back. Didn't you? He opened his mouth. Closed it. I thought I'd buried you, he admitted. You just disappeared. Everyone said you jumped into the river. We even hired a salvage team. You never checked the flight records, I replied. You never checked my grandmother's last known address. You assumed I couldn't survive without you. He looked like he might be sick. I didn't know you had a child. I gently bounced Mia in my arms. She's 1 year and 8 months old. Her name is Mia. She's not yours. She's never even heard your name. Derek stepped closer again, pleading. I never stopped thinking about you. Funny, I said, because I stopped thinking about you the day I left the country. And I've never looked back since. At that moment, Luca turned the corner, still in his glittery jacket, holding a juice box in one hand. His gaze flicked from me, to Derek, to Mia. Then he walked calmly to my side, wrapped one protective arm around my waist, and looked Derek square in the eye. Is there a problem here? Derek blinked. Who are you? Luca pulled me and Mia gently toward him. Her husband. The words landed like a gunshot. Derek staggered back a step. Her husband. I stayed quiet, letting the words sit in the air between us. Derek's face crumpled. You're really married? Yes, I said. Happily. He looked like he was falling apart. I searched for you for 3 years, he whispered. And in that time you got married, had a child, built a new life. His voice broke. You didn't even give me a chance to apologize. You had enough time to apologize, I said. In a hospital bed. In a silence that nearly killed me. Mia stirred softly against my shoulder. I stroked her hair. And even now, I added, you're making this about your guilt. Derek stared at me, helpless. You really don't feel anything? I met his gaze and held it. I feel peace, I said. Which is something I never had with you. He flinched. Luca leaned closer, voice low and firm. This conversation is over. Stay away from my wife. And just like that, we turned and walked away. We didn't talk about it that night. Luca tucked me into bed. I changed into pajamas. We brushed our teeth. Took turns reading bedtime stories. It was only after the lights were out that he finally said, You okay? I nodded. Yes. I was going to punch him. I smiled into the darkness. I know. He reached for my hand under the covers. Thank you, for letting me be your now. I turned toward him. You're not just my now, Luca. You're my always. I thought that after seeing Derek once, that would be the end of it. An accidental collision with the past, nothing more. I had imagined I'd walk away and the story would close like the final page of a book. I was wrong. Because Derek Collins did not know how to lose. And especially not how to be forgotten. It started subtly. The morning after the wedding, I noticed someone had called me 6 times in a row from an unknown number. I blocked it. Another number tried the same thing 2 hours later. Then again the next day. By the 3rd evening, Luca had noticed. He held my phone up, frowning. Is this him? I didn't have to answer. He already knew. I'll take care of it, he said, calm but firm. But I didn't want Luca to have to shield me from this. I wasn't that version of Elena anymore. So the next time Derek called from yet another number, I answered. He didn't say hello. just breathed into the line like he'd run to find a phone. "Elena," he said. "Please don't hang up." "What do you want, Derek?" "I just want talk. I swear I won't cause a scene. I need to see you. One last time." "No. You owe me that." I laughed. "I owe you nothing. Not after what you did." "I made mistakes," he whispered. "But I loved you. Why did you carry Vanessa out and leave me bleeding on the floor?" Silence. I thought. I didn't know. She was pregnant. So was I. The silence became suffocating. "You didn't tell me," he murmured, voice breaking. "Because you didn't care to ask." After that I thought maybe he'd back off. Instead he showed up at the cafe where Mira and I were having lunch 2 days later. He didn't say anything. Just stood outside across the street, staring through the window like a shadow that refused to vanish. Luca wasn't with me. But Mira noticed. "Don't turn around," she said, stabbing her salad with unnecessary force. "But someone's about to get a fork in his eye if he doesn't leave." I turned anyway. Our eyes met through the glass. He lifted one hand, not in greeting, just a ghost of a wave. Something haunted in his gaze. I stood, walked to the door. But before I could speak he said it. "She looks like me." I froze. "Your daughter," he said. "She looks like me when I was little. Same eyes. Same mouth." "No," I said firmly. "She doesn't. She has my mother's eyes. And my husband's smile. I saw you at the wedding. The way she clung to you." His voice trembled. "I know she's mine. She is not your child. She was born not long after you disappeared. The timeline fits. My daughter has nothing to do with you. Elena, please." And then, as if he'd rehearsed it, "If you won't tell me the truth, I'll take it to court." That made me laugh. A sharp, cold laugh that didn't sound like it came from me. "You want a DNA test?" I asked. "If that's what it takes." I stepped closer, lowered my voice. "Do it. But when it proves she isn't yours, I'll sue you for defamation so hard you'll need a lawyer to order lunch." He blinked. I turned away. He grabbed my wrist. "Elena, stop lying." That was it. I pulled back, raised my hand and slapped him hard, across the face. The sound cracked through the air like thunder. People turned. Mira dropped her fork. Derek stared at me, stunned, one hand covering his cheek. "You do not get to follow me. You do not get to stake a claim on a child you never knew existed, because you never cared to. You left me. You abandoned me. And now that I've built a life without you, you think you can worm your way back in with your guilt and delusions." I was shaking. But my voice was clear. "She is not your child. I'm not your wife. And you are not welcome in my life." His eyes were wide. "You hit me." I nodded. "I should have done it 3 years ago." By the time I returned to the table, Luca had already arrived. Mira must have texted him. He pulled out a chair, silently pulled me into his arms and let me cry into his chest. Not from pain. Not from fear. But from sheer release. "I handled it," I whispered. "I know," he murmured, stroking my hair. "You're not mad." He pulled back just enough to look into my eyes. "You were protecting our family. I could never be mad at that." Mira handed me a napkin. "Next time I'm slapping him. I want my turn." That night Luca held me a little longer than usual. We lay in bed, Mia sleeping between us, her tiny hand curled in mine. "You don't ever have to explain yourself to me," he said softly. "But if you ever want to talk about what you're feeling, I'll always listen." "I don't feel anything for him," I said. "I believe you. But I do feel something." He waited. "Freedom," I said. Luca smiled. "You earned it. When you've been broken by someone you loved, choosing love again feels like standing at the edge of a cliff with your arms wide open. No parachute, just trust." But Luca never asked me to jump. He just sat beside me at the edge day after day, waiting patiently until I was ready to take the first step. The first time I realized I could breathe around him was on a rainy Wednesday. I was still living with Mira, barely functioning. I hadn't spoken more than a handful of words to anyone in weeks. I was in the kitchen trying to make tea, my hands trembling as I reached for the kettle. Without a word, Luca stepped in behind me and took it from my hands. "I'll make it," he said quietly. I didn't say thank you. I couldn't. But I sat down and watched him boil water, steep the leaves, pour gently into a mug like it was a sacred act. He slid it across the table and said, "You don't owe me your story." But if you ever want to tell it, I'll be here. He never brought it up again. That was the first time I didn't feel like a broken thing in someone else's presence. Months passed. I slowly started returning to the world. Volunteering at the bookstore. Cooking with Mira. Laughing with her baby. Existing without pain being the first thing I felt every morning. And Luca was always there. He fixed the faucet. Painted Mia's nursery before we even knew she'd be a girl. Picked up Myra's groceries. Dropped off books he thought I'd enjoy. But never hovered. Never asked for anything. One evening, I sat beside him on the porch and asked, "Why are you still around?" He didn't look up from the book he was holding. "I like the company," he said. "You could have that from anyone." "I like yours," he replied simply. That was Luca. No grand declarations. No expectations. Just steady, unshakable presence. After we married, we rented a small house with a tiny garden and mismatched windows. I wanted something imperfect. Luca didn't hesitate. The day we moved in, he stood in the doorway holding me and said, "We don't need big to be happy. We just need enough room to grow." And we did. Together. But even the quietest life can be interrupted by echoes of the past. A month after our confrontation with Derek, I received a message. No name. Just a number I didn't recognize. "Please. Just talk to me once." I deleted it. Then came the calls. 5 in one day. Then 10. Then 20. Luca noticed my hands tightening around my phone. "You don't have to answer," he said. "I won't," I promised. But the 11th time I did. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to hear what he'd say. Maybe I needed to see if I still felt anything. Spoiler, I didn't. "Elena," Derek's voice came through the line, hoarse, ragged. "Thank God." "I have 1 minute," I said coldly. "Elena, I'm sorry. For everything." "No, you're not. You're just alone." He didn't deny it. "I'm living in the house we shared," he said. "I haven't changed anything. Your mug is still in the cabinet. The necklace I gave you is still on the dresser. I wake up every day thinking you'll come back." "You're not talking to me," I said. "You're talking to the ghost of the woman who used to forgive you." "Elena, please. I still love you." "No," I replied, my voice steady. "You loved the version of me that didn't know better. The one you could mold. The one who stayed even after being left on the floor." He was quiet. "I met someone who picks me up when I fall. Who sees me, loves me, without conditions. That's something you'll never understand." There was a pause. Then he whispered, "Are you really that heartless? You left me to suffer alone for 3 years." My hands shook. Not with fear. With fury. I suffered too. But unlike you, I didn't build my suffering into a shrine. I turned it into a life. A good one. He was breathing hard now. "Just tell me, was any of it real?" "Yes," I said. "It was. But that chapter is closed." He was still talking when I hung up. The final message came late one evening, while I was brushing Mia's hair and Luca was reading her favorite bedtime story for the 3rd time in a row. Just one conversation. "Please. Meet me tomorrow. Café Revel, 4 p.m. No drama. I swear." I stared at the screen, the glow of the phone cutting through the soft golden light of our living room. Luca looked over the top of the picture book, raising one brow. He didn't need to ask. He already knew. "Do you want me to go with you?" he asked after Mia finally drifted off. I shook my head. "I want to end it properly." He nodded once, eyes steady. "Then end it. But don't let either of them drag you backward." Café Revel hadn't changed in 3 years. Same ivy crawling up the windows. Same piano jazz playing faintly over the speakers. Same smell of over-roasted coffee and too much whipped cream. I arrived early. The hostess pointed to a private booth in the back, curtained off. I should have walked away the moment I heard the giggle. Vanessa. I drew the curtain back and found her sitting alone, perfectly made up, a faint smirk on her lips. "Elena," she said like we were old friends. "You look comfortable." I didn't sit. "Where's Derek?" I asked coldly. "Oh, he's running late," she said, swirling her coffee. "But since I'm the one you're really competing with, I thought we should talk first." I crossed my arms. "There's no competition. You can have him." She raised an eyebrow. "But he still wants you." "I don't want him," I snapped. "Don't be so sure," she replied, her tone light but mocking. "You showed up, didn't you? With your little daughter parading around in North City, looking like a walking memory. Don't act like you didn't want to be seen. You think everything's a game, I said. You think women like us exist only to win men. Vanessa leaned back. I already won. But now you've stirred something up in him. He can't sleep. He barely eats. He says your voice echoes in his head. Then he should get a therapist. Her expression twisted. She stood slowly, took a step toward me and whispered, he was mine before he was ever yours. And now, I said clearly, he's neither of ours. I turned to leave. That's when Derek walked in. He froze mid-step. Elena, he said, breath catching. Why did you ask me here? I asked him directly. I needed to see you. To explain. I don't know what happened to me back then. I was wrong. About everything. I was a coward. You were cruel. I know, he whispered. But I want to start over. With you. With Mia. She's not yours, I said. I know, he said. But I don't care. I want you both anyway. From the corner of my eye, I saw Vanessa stiffen. And then, she crumbled. She let out a sharp gasp and stumbled back like something had struck her. My stomach, she moaned, collapsing onto the floor. It hurts, Derek. A waiter turned around. People began to glance over. Derek rushed forward instinctively. Vanessa, are you? She pushed me. Vanessa wailed, pointing at me. Elena pushed me. I blinked. What? She's jealous. I told her I'm pregnant again and she attacked me. I never touched you, I said loudly, drawing the attention of the whole room. You've done this before. Derek looked torn. Vanessa. She's trying to hurt me and the baby. Vanessa sobbed louder. Why won't anyone help me? I stepped forward, grabbed her wrist and yanked her up to her feet with one firm motion. There was no injury. No pain. Just theatrics. You really thought that would work again? I said. The tears. The stomach clutching. The collapsing. Her face twisted with rage. Let go of me. You pulled this exact trick 3 years ago. And he believed you. He chose you. And you let him abandon me while I miscarried his child. The cafe was silent now. Every table, every server, every pair of eyes was locked on us. You used his ego to destroy me, I said. But I rebuilt. Without either of you. And now you're just background noise in a life that doesn't belong to you anymore. Vanessa looked panicked. Derek, say something. Derek stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. I always took precautions, he said slowly, to no one in particular. What? Vanessa blinked. I never wanted a child with you, he added, still dazed. Not with you. Not after what you did. Excuse me, she hissed. You can't talk to me like that. Derek turned to me. Elena. No, I cut in sharply. Don't even finish that sentence. I turned to walk away. He reached for me. Please, just listen. I pulled free. You want to rebuild? Do it without me, I said. This is what regret looks like, Derek. You don't get to regret me now. When I got home, Luca was in the living room building a block tower with Mia. She looked up and beamed. Mama. I scooped her into my arms and held her tightly. Luca stood. How did it go? I looked at the man who had held space for my healing. Who never once tried to control me. Who never made me prove my worth. I smiled. It's over. I wasn't planning to see Derek again. Not after what happened at the cafe. Vanessa's collapse, her fake tears, the look of stunned humiliation on Derek's face as I walked away with the truth finally laid bare. But some stories demand one final line. Not for the sake of the man who broke you, but for the woman who survived him. So when Derek showed up outside my building 2 days later, pale and uncertain, I didn't run. I agreed to speak with him. Once. No Vanessa. No pleading. No crowds. Just the two of us. In silence. With nothing left to lie about. We met at a quiet park on the edge of the city. Luca stayed home with Mia, no questions asked. Derek was already sitting on the bench when I arrived, elbows on his knees, staring down at his hands like they'd betrayed him. When he looked up, he startled slightly as if still not convinced I'd actually come. Elena, he said quietly. I didn't respond. I sat across from him, not beside him. He exhaled shakily. Thank you for coming. I stared at him, unreadable. He struggled for words. I know you think I don't deserve this and you're right. But I need to understand. I said nothing. I need to know, he whispered. Everything. I took a breath and began slowly, calmly. The night you pushed me. I was already bleeding by the time I hit the stairs. His entire body tensed. I called your name. You didn't even look back. Vanessa was sobbing about her ankle, and you carried her away like she was made of glass. I couldn't even stand up. Elena. I waited. For someone. Anyone. You know who finally called the ambulance? He shook his head. A stranger. A delivery guy walking past your building. He found me unconscious. He's the reason I didn't die on that floor. Derek's face turned ashen. I continued. At the hospital they told me I'd had a miscarriage. 3 months in. I didn't even know I was pregnant until that moment. His mouth opened but no sound came out. I stayed there alone for 3 days. He never came. Never called. The nurses assumed I didn't have family. One of them told me how lucky I was that I wasn't married. Said I'd have one less person to disappoint. Elena, he whispered. I didn't know. I swear. I had no idea. You didn't care to know, I snapped. That's worse. He swallowed. If I had known. What? I said. You would have come back? Comforted me? Told Vanessa to wait while you took care of your broken wife. He didn't answer. You already had your version of me, I said. The quiet one. The one who forgave. Who didn't ask questions. Who stayed out of the way while you flirted with ghosts. He flinched. But the moment I needed you, truly needed you, you left. I didn't understand what I was doing, he said, voice breaking. I thought I was choosing love. But I was choosing fantasy. And I destroyed the one real thing I ever had. You destroyed more than that, I said. You destroyed a child. And then you forgot it ever existed. Tears welled in his eyes. I would have been a father, he said as if saying it for the first time. I shook my head. No. You wouldn't have. You weren't even a husband. He looked at me like he was drowning. Can't you just forgive me? I did, I said. His eyes widened. I forgave you the moment I left the hospital. Because I knew then you didn't deserve my anger. You deserved my absence. I stood. He followed, desperate. Elena, please. I turned to him, eyes clear, voice steady. Mia is not your daughter. She never was. But I did have a child with you once, and you'll never know them. You don't get to mourn what you abandoned. He opened his mouth. But there was nothing left to say. I let silence hang between us. The wind rustled the leaves overhead, cool and final. This conversation is over, I said. He sank back onto the bench, stunned and small, his hands shaking. I didn't offer him comfort. I walked away. Back at home, the moment I stepped through the door, Mia ran toward me with messy pigtails and chocolate on her cheek. Mama. I picked her up and kissed her forehead. Luca was on the floor, organizing her building blocks, barefoot, calm as always. He looked up, eyes meeting mine. Everything okay? I nodded. It's finally over. He smiled and opened his arms. I sat beside him, holding our daughter in my lap. This was what love looked like. Not apologies for past pain, but the quiet joy of a life that no longer needed healing. 2 months after I told Derek the truth, I received an email from our lawyer. Or rather, my lawyer, Nina. She'd been working quietly in the background, building a case against Vanessa for slander and defamation. A shaky video had surfaced from the cafe confrontation. One a patron had filmed discreetly and uploaded. In it, Vanessa's theatrical collapse, Derek's stunned silence, and my calm exposure of the truth played out like a scene from a legal drama. Nina wasted no time. She filed charges. Vanessa, for once in her life, couldn't talk her way out of it. The sentencing was short and swift. 1 month of detention. Just long enough for the world to notice. Nina smiled as she handed me the court summary. She'll come out to whispers, headlines, and more questions than answers. I didn't ask for compensation. I didn't care for public statements. I didn't even attend the hearing. But I did make one quiet call to a few reputable gossip outlets. Just enough to spread the truth. That Vanessa Reed, the socialite darling, had faked pregnancy and assault to ruin the reputation of a woman who had long since moved on. I never gave them a quote. My silence was the final punctuation mark she didn't expect. We packed up for our return to Country M soon after. Luca handled the shipping. I handled Mia's tantrums over which toys she could bring on the plane. We lived in boxes for a week, but I didn't mind. Goodbyes can feel heavy. But this one didn't. It felt like finally putting the lid on a box that had been half closed for years. 2 nights before our flight, I stepped out onto the small balcony of our temporary apartment. A light drizzle had settled over the city. The air smelled like wet concrete in fading summer. I saw him again. Dirk. He was standing across the street under a flickering street lamp. He wasn't looking at me. Just standing. Like he had nowhere else to go. He looked older. Smaller. The arrogance stripped away, leaving only a man who had lost everything and still hadn't figured out why. I watched him for a while. Then I whispered softly so only the night could hear. Goodbye. He never looked up. The day we left, Mia wore her bunny backpack and asked every 5 minutes if we were flying to the moon. Luca kissed her cheek and said, "Yes, and Mama is the moon queen." She squealed and nodded solemnly, as if her suspicions had finally been confirmed. As we boarded, I didn't look back. Not at the city. Not at the memories. Not at the ghost of the woman I once was. Our house in Country M was still the same, cozy, slightly too small and filled with mismatched furniture and drawings stuck to the fridge. Felt like breathing again. Normal. Right. I unpacked slowly over the following days. Hung Mia's artwork in the hallway. Put our wedding photo back on the mantel. I found the tiny pair of shoes I'd bought when I first learned I was pregnant with her. I placed them in a memory box along with a letter, sealed, dated, and addressed to the child I never got to meet. Not for guilt. For peace. One evening I came downstairs to find Luca and Mia on the living room floor. She was sitting cross-legged, hair in 2 uneven pigtails, trying to teach him a dance she'd learned at daycare. He was trying to follow terribly, arms flailing with comic determination. They both burst out laughing. I stood there quietly watching them. That moment, the laughter, the mess, the love, was something I used to dream about in silence, curled up in a hospital bed waiting for someone who never came. And now I lived it daily. Not because someone saved me, but because I chose to walk away from what broke me, and straight into what loved me back. Later that night, Luca wrapped his arms around me as we lay in bed. "You haven't said much today," he murmured into my hair. "I'm just full," I whispered. "Not sad. Just full." He kissed my temple. "Of what?" "Gratitude," I said. He didn't reply. He didn't need to. He just held me tighter. I no longer wonder what Derek is doing. I don't wonder where Vanessa went after her sentencing. Some chapters don't need epilogues. They need closure. The end.